assess or not to assess? That is the question. My gut reaction to the question is no, don't assess. But it's a little more complicated than that, so let's get into it. The main point that I want to get across is that we don't want to assess for the sake of assessment or simply out of habit. We need to really evaluate what are our goals in conducting STEM challenges, and then how or even if assessment helps us evaluate and meet those goals. So the first thing then is to think about, what are your goals? Why are you conducting STEM challenges? I'll share my list with you. I conduct STEM challenges because I want to build problem solving and critical thinking skills in my students. I want to give them true challenges where I'm pretty certain they're going to be met with frustration and potentially even failure. Then what I want to do is facilitate the analysis of the failure points and fixing of the failure points. I'm hoping that through doing STEM challenges that they learn not to fear failure and to develop growth mindsets. I want to give them opportunities to develop their creativity and display their creativity. I want to make sure that I'm facilitating, not leading challenges, so students know I believe in their ability to solve problems, and that I want them to have the experience of solving the problems on their own so they can build their confidence and self-reliance. I want them to learn to work collaboratively with their peers. I want them to be able to voice their own ideas and defend them. And then I also want them to learn to negotiate and work within a group, even if that group chooses to go in a direction that they didn't necessarily want. I want them to make connections with STEM skills in real-world problems and situations. And I want an opportunity to address next-gen science standards. Once you have your list, you can decide how or even if you want to assess STEM challenges. Based on my goals, STEM challenge assessments should really be sort of informal. I'm looking to see that groups made an honest attempt to meet the criteria and constraints list they were provided to guide them on the challenge. If you've ever done one of my challenges, you know I always have handouts to record and reflect, and I give those to each individual student even when they're working in groups, because I want to see that each student is analyzing and thinking about the challenge. And I want to give them an opportunity to share their ideas in case their group didn't go with one of their ideas. As I'm walking around while students are building, I'm listening to their discussions, I'm probing with my own questions, and that is also something I informally take notes on. But in terms of what grades go in a grade book, for me, it's really just the handouts, the record and reflect handouts. I don't really believe in grading the design itself, but if I were going to do so, I would recommend never ever do that on the first iteration of a challenge. I don't feel like it's a fair thing to do because that first iteration is timed, and I know how I would be as a student. If I know that I have 15 minutes to build something that is going to be graded, I'm not going to take any risks and I'm not going to be terribly creative. I'm going to do what I think is most likely to be successful and neglect everything else. I also think it's sort of akin to having students write a rough draft piece of writing, but then grading that as though it were a final draft. I just feel like in general, grading the design itself undermines my stated goals, so I don't do it. For me, the most important thing is that the students are making an attempt to build to the criteria and constraints list, and then they are thinking about how that went and processing that information and then applying it to the next iteration. Again, if I were ever going to grade a design, I would not do it on the first iteration. I would consider it on the second. I wrote a blog post to sort of elaborate on my thinking behind assessing STEM challenges, and I will link that in the description below. The main thing I want to get across is just to make sure that if you're going to assess any part of a STEM challenge, to just be very thoughtful about which parts and whether or not your assessments support a worthy goal. And just try not to get caught up in the assessment madness that is our modern school system. If you have thoughts and comments on whether to assess STEM challenges, or you want to share how you assess your STEM challenges, please share in the comments or reach out. All of my social media links are in the description below. Thanks so much for all the work you do, and I hope you are enjoying your much-deserved winter break. Do not forget to like and subscribe. I'll be back next week. I'll see you next time.